Happy draft week, ladies and gentlemen. Yo ho ho, Bills Mafia. Welcome to yet another edition of the Dom Mafia Show. As always, your host, Dan Mitchell. Say that you're new here. I'm an avid member of the Bills Mafia, and I regularly put out videos about the NFL and the Buffalo Bills in general. If that is your cup of tea, I highly recommend subscribing to this channel, and as always, smashing the ever-living out of that like button. As I'm starting a series on this channel in light of the NFL draft coming up on this Thursday, is I figured I'm just gonna be shoving mock drafts down your throats. Now, spoiler alert, it's not gonna be me, because number one, frankly, I don't know and then number two, I wanted to spice it up a little bit. As you know, the Buffalo Bills creator community has been growing significantly throughout the past couple of years, and I have had the opportunity of making several friends. So I wanted to take this opportunity and understand where some of my other Bills content creators are going, who they want to end up a Buffalo Bill at the conclusion of this weekend. Very first guest, you know him too well, Z-bot out of Buffalo Fanatics, and this was our conversation. Enjoy. Z-bot from Buffalo Fanatics, one of my personal favorite co-hosts. What's going on, man?
What is up, brother? One of my personal solo hosts.
Host, man.
And one of my, it's hard to break down who my favorite is on the AFC roundtable, though, because I say this every time, but all of you guys blended together. I know it's a sports show, but I don't laugh harder at any other sports show than I do when I listen to you guys. The different blends coming from all corners of the division. It gets
gotta be TV. It's got to be TV.
He's
the fan favorite. Like, I'm humble enough to admit that he's the one that carries it, mostly because of just like his blind confidence in his team every single year.
It kills me.
Yeah.
But then Master at Work, and it's the way he delivers it is also, it just, the dynamic of those two, especially now where we sit as Bills fans, I guess, it makes it 10 times funnier, I guess, to be able to be in that situation we are at now where they're trying to get back to where, or not, well, especially Master at Work, but they're trying to get up to where the Bills have been in the division, and kind of watching that whole process and then the way they deliver it just kills me every time. So
it really is, because it's funny, like now with all the Aaron Rodgers news coming out, like Richie is slowly but surely starting to become arrogant, and I love it. It's like an arrogant era, and I've been waiting for it for a very long time. So I think that the show has quite a bit of promise going into the season. By the way, and so you have actually filled in for me a couple of times. So
yes.
Yeah.
Love it every time. Oh, I always oh my God.
Most definitely. It's draft 30. The draft is only a couple of days away. I know as Bills content creators, we've probably done a million of these. Full transparency, you and I were talking about this off camera, but like you, like I am not a draft guy. No. Like after the third round, like I'm just like basically like you could compare it to like somebody drafting a fantasy football team based off of how much you like their uniforms after the third. Yeah. I know nothing. So I know that
you know what a good way to put it? It's like a lot of these movie trilogies. I don't, whatever you can think of, the MCU, whatever, Star Wars. I like them. So there's a difference between liking it. Like I love the Bills. Don't get that wrong. That's a different story. I'm talking specifically about the draft, because this is a niche. The draft is very niche within the football fan base, where I think there's people who are like us who, you know, we definitely like it, but we're not bringing out the notebook and writing down the names of the sixth rounders that could potentially land in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So, but then there is that, and I love those people because I get a kick out of their, I don't even know, the knowledge blows my mind. But I look at it from like the movie reference there, because there's people who, you know, you go see the movie, you totally dig it, and then that's that. And then there's the people that's it. Like every little, oh, did you see the difference between this one and the sequel from the beginning? That was correlated to that. Like you're either really in, or you're just like, you know, you dig it and then leave it at that. We were talking earlier about what we like the most about it, and we agreed upon it. We like more assessing what has happened looking back as opposed to going forward, because you and I don't dig deep into the deeper rounds, so it's tougher for us to get a gauge. But it's easier, and I think more fun, to look at what's been done, not only with the Bills, but with everybody. Exactly. And then kind of draw a correlation to how that's going to affect things to come. Like even for me, I remember last year, just not being a gigantic draft guy, just watching what the Jets did. I just remember sitting back, and this was, I didn't know a whole ton about everything, but I remember just sitting back and saying, man, they had to have gotten better based on what they just did. And that's what ended up happening. So I do like looking back on it because I think you get a better gauge of what the team's going to be like after that. But going in, it is fun, but the knowledge, I'll say, is not on par with Mel Kiper and the rest of the gang out there in the draft sphere.
Yeah, well, listen, man. I mean, this is YouTube. This is fun. So you and I are going to struggle through this draft together.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, baby. Let's go on ahead and knock it out. Okay,
so I love having a good time. So let's do that with this.
And so I know that you've already decided that you're like, yeah, I'm not trading, never trading down.
No trades. I will say with the trades though, even though I've done a few of these, I'm wondering if they do, because you hear the rumors about trading up. If they do trade up, I'm wondering how they're going to do it and who for. A lot of the guys that I feel like they would trade up for, there's plenty of teams in front of them with the same needs the Bills have.
Yeah,
that are going to be there and not want to trade with the Bills. So that interests me. Those rumors keep coming out.
There doesn't seem to be a lot of like first round graded offensive talent from the majority of the things that I've been reading and like looking into. Not sure about you. I know that Rico is all about this as well, but I'm a huge Bijan Robinson guy. Like I know that people want to like nail me to a stake.
Yeah.
Anytime that I say I want a running back in the first round.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would really be the only sort of player that I could see us like wanting to trade up for. That or some of like the high level receivers. But I mean, you're exactly right? I mean, now there's rumors that the Eagles are looking into Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I've seen mock drafts with them taking Bijan Robinson at 10.
Yeah.
And you know how it goes, Dan. All off season, this is going to happen. We think this is going to happen. Then the week of, which we're in now, everything flips on its head. I haven't seen the Eagles taking Bijan Robinson at 10 all offseason. This week, I've seen it on multiple mock drafts. So you're thinking, oh, maybe he'll fall to the Bills at 27. Oh, 17 picks before is when he's projected to go on some of these mock drafts. So who the hell knows?
Yeah, that is unlikely. But
I agree. I think that'd be crazy.
Wild. But I mean, I would definitely be clicking my heels if that man was a Buffalo Bill going into it. Yeah. But pick number 27. Right now, a couple of guys off the board, according to PFF, with the D-line, linebacker, and cornerback. Many would say offensive line. So what position are you looking for right now with some of the players that are available here? And I'm more than happy to filter down on particular positions.
Well,
oh no, Dan, not another ad read. Trust me, you are going to thank me for this. Now, as many of you know, I work extremely long hours, 7 a.m. until I about pass out at 11 or midnight Monday through Friday. And you would think that I would be able to go to sleep and rejuvenate. You're absolutely wrong. My mind is still going a million miles a second, and for the most part, I'm staring at my ceiling until 3 a.m. Now, that is something that I have accepted for myself, but I needed to make a change. I needed to start taking naps, but once again, I can't nap either. Whether or not that it's my FOMO, or whether or not that I just can't get comfortable enough, or it's too bright, I have had no such luck until I ended up finding the Manta sleep mask. Now, little do you know, Manta truly believes sleep needs to be the #1 priority in order to achieve that particular level of success. Now, these things are ridiculously comfortable, and literally the second that you put it on, you feel like you're right next to Aaron Rodgers during one of his darkness retreats. I mean, look at this. Literally can't see shit. So you know what? I should probably apply to officiate in the NFL. Prerequisites right here. Now, Manta has several selections on their website. This particular is the Sleep Mask Pro. This company and this mask has really been able to help me prioritize what is most important, and that is my sleep, so I can keep on giving you that juicy content, baby. So whatever you're doing, go to that link in my bio and make sure you put in the code DONMAFIA, and they're going to give you an extra 10% off your first order. Trust me, you will not regret this. Night, bitches.
Just by looking at it, it looks like there was a massive run on wide receivers. Go ahead and click wide receiver for me real quick, just so I can take a look. Wow, so Zay Flowers didn't even fall to 27 on this. I mean, there was a run. And this is what I was talking about with you earlier. So the Cowboys need a wide receiver, obviously, but the Giants do as well. And if you scroll back up a little bit more, there's multiple teams on this board. It looks like the Ravens didn't take one, but they're needy. I know the Vikings are as well. And then, of course, closer to 10, there's also a bunch of teams that are going to take those top wide receivers. This one, honestly, Dan, this is the first one I've done where Zay Flowers hasn't even fallen to 27. So there was a massive run on wide receiver. Here's where I stand. I really want a weapon bad. And I know when you say Bijan Robinson, and of course Rico's on Bijan Robinson. Last year it was all Breece Hall. Now it's Bijan Robinson. Next year it'll be somebody. I get that philosophy because I think when we think weapon, all we think about is wide receiver. But that could mean wide receiver, that could mean tight end, and that, of course, could mean running back, a guy like Bijan Robinson, who's more than just a running back. He gives you a lot out of the backfield in the pass game as well. So I do get that. But sitting here at 27, should the Bills not trade up? And I don't know if trading up is going to get them one of those guys just based on the team's needs in front of them. I don't see them sitting at 27 and getting a weapon. So that, to me, immediately moves to my next focus, and that's the offensive line.
Got it.
These Bills have drafted, outside of Josh Allen, their last 6 first-round draft picks have all been on the defense. I'm not saying they've neglected the offense because they certainly haven't, and this Bills offense has been towards the top of the league over the last couple of seasons. But we're starting to see, Dan, other teams around the league are quickly catching up, if not surpassing. If you look at the AFC right now and you look at the weapons that some of these teams have, I've compiled it down. There's arguments to be had on either side, but I've compiled it down to about 6 to 8 teams that you could argue have a better weaponry unit right now than the Buffalo Bills going into the season, 2 of which you could argue are in our own division with the Jets and the Dolphins. It's getting up there. The Bills have got to make a move, but I don't know if there's value here at 27. The other way I think you elevate this offense, Dan, is on the O-line. They've been talking about it religiously. I know Brandon Beane's huge on building the trenches. We know, especially on defense, but they haven't done it yet on the offensive side of the ball. And what's been their main focus all offseason? Protecting Josh Allen. We need to change his game style so we can protect him more, preserve him more. The best way to do that is to get somebody in front of him who's helping him in that department. Now you add Najee Harris, that takes a bit of the load off too. So I think in this position, without trading up or without trading back, I go offensive line. And right here, I'm narrowing it down to either Anton Harrison or DeJuan Jones. The problem is I don't think DeJuan Jones plays right tackle, or maybe I forget. We need to go on the right side of the ball. I'm trying to think. Maybe he does play right tackle. Let's see. One of these two doesn't play right tackle. I think it's one of them. It's either DeJuan Jones or it is Harrison there.
So he had 763 snaps, 0 at left tackle. So he is exclusively a right tackle.
Okay.
DeJuan Jones.
So let me just double check here. I'm almost positive. Yeah. So Harrison's he's played exclusive left tackle, and he's only started 1 game at right tackle. And I think when you look at what the Bills currently are in need of on the line, because the line itself, I think a lot of people exclusively pin it down to the run game and the struggles that the run game has had for the Bills. But we don't necessarily know how much better it could have been if the offensive line in front of it was even above average. I think you could argue last year the Bills' offensive line was below average. And I know we got Najee Harris coming in, and I know that when people look at that pick, they immediately think that that'll up the run game. I think it'll help out in the department of the short game, but there still needs to be additions on the offensive line in order for there to be a substantial increase there. So another reason why I go there, and another reason why I pin this down to those two, but I forget that Anton Harrison, he only plays exclusively on the left side of the ball. So let's go DeJuan Jones here.
DeJuan Jones.
1, pick 27 out of Ohio State, which pains me. I hate Ohio State, but they breed some good NFL talent out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, that's an interesting pick. It really is. I've seen tackle be a sleeper pick. I've seen a lot of people be absolutely obsessed with Osiris as well, like Torrance out of Florida.
Yeah.
I've seen that specifically when it comes into the guard position, because, I mean, I'm not necessarily sure that I believe that Connor McGovern's going to go in there and absolutely be lights out and solve all of our issues on the offensive line as well. Right. And with Spencer Brown, really not living up to expectations, I feel like both of those have been significant. Yeah. And I mean, I know everybody wants us to go out there and have a crazy run game, and they want to be able to implement these sort of offensive linemen that have the ability of run blocking. But let's be honest with ourselves. Ken Dorsey is our offensive coordinator. Even if we did show some sort of success in the run game, by the second quarter, that man's just going pure pass for the rest of the game.
I don't know. I don't know if it was the play design. I don't know if it was simply just his play calling in situations where it wasn't necessary, but there were multiple times last year where it felt like, and this is coming from somebody who when they line up to run, oftentimes you're like, there were multiple times last year where they dial up a deep route. And I think this also has to do with the fact that they were missing really anything to do over the middle in the slot game. Cole Beasley was a bigger loss than I think anybody could have imagined.
Yep.
They would dial things up down the field that just made no sense in that specific circumstance. And I think that's where Najee Harris really comes in and helps out. But outside of Josh Allen's ability to run and make plays, there was no lethal run threat. And there was no threat from the run game outside of Josh Allen that a team would have to really respect coming in. So I think beefing up that line and then hoping you get some production like, do I keep saying, what do I keep saying? Do I keep saying, am I screwing that up?
Damian Harris, yeah.
Why do I keep saying Najee Harris? Why do I just realized that, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you knew it, didn't you? You were like, let this guy run a little bit. Let this guy run a little bit.
Well, I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to do like a voiceover, like right over Najee, and I'm just going to like try and do my best impression of Z-bot and say Damian.
Oh my God.
Over it, so it's going to be great.
So Damian Harris, Jesus. You want to know what? So I this is the shittiest excuse, but I think this is the reason why. So I just did this toy unboxing. I had this I got this I did like a deal with the manufacturers who make the figures over here. And I just did it last week, and I opened up a Najee Harris and I was talking all about him. And I'm thinking Harris now, boom. So Damian Harris, come back full circle. Damian Harris should be able to take advantage of a beefed up offensive line and should be able to help the Bills out in the short run game. So that's why we go tackle, and hopefully the run game improves this year outside of Josh Allen's ability to run the ball. Jesus, Stan.
Hey, man, listen, you know what? That's the beauty of editing, my friend.
It is.
That. I was going through sort of a come to Jesus moment. I was debating back and forth. I was like, should I keep the Najee Harris thing in there? I'm not going to correct my man on this video.
No, you got to do something funny with it. You got to do something funny.
I think I will. I think people will be excited about it.
You know what's funny? The first thing, the first time I said it, something felt off, but it didn't feel off enough to not stop. And then all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, this is not right. That's something about this is not right.
Hey, man. All right. Sometimes you just got to commit. Sometimes you just got to commit. So, all right. So we ended up going tackle the first round. Now we are sitting at 59. Once again, no trade ups, no trade downs. Needs still defensive line, linebacker, and cornerback. Yes. Where we go, and I am a little disappointed because it looks like that a linebacker that Bills fans are absolutely in love with, Jack Campbell, is going right where they say his value is going to be, the mid-second round. So that's why I'm thinking a trade down makes sense, because we'd still be able to scoop him up and then afterwards. But where the chips have fallen, the Buffalo Bills are at 59 right now. What do you like?
I either like – so I come down to two here. I come down to I always butcher his last name, but Tooley out of USC, the edge defender. That just seems like it's right up Bean's alley. We know he can never get his hands on enough defensive linemen, especially on the edge. And as much as he's added there, doesn't it feel like, and of course it feels like this because it really hasn't come to fruition. It feels like he has not hit on that guy that he clearly has been trying to hit. Obviously you go out and get Von Miller. That's a different story. That's a guy who's on his way to retirement. He wants a guy that is going to be a franchise player in that position for a long time. And they just really haven't hit that home run yet. So I could see Bean taking another crack at that position, but my vibe this year, and this is just coming from my personal opinion, I think Bean might go a different direction here just because we know the defensive focus is always on the mind of him in the draft. But I like Sam Laporta here, the tight end out of Iowa. And the reason I do, I didn't know I got to give credit to Bruce Nolan here from Cover One. I didn't know a whole lot about Sam last week when we were talking. Him and I were on a show together over on Cover One, and him and I were talking, doing the same thing, a mock draft here. And he was telling me how Laporta, not only is he a great tight end in this draft, especially one that you can get later on, but he was also telling me how he was far and away the clear-cut best offensive player on Iowa. And That means a lot coming out of the Big Ten because you're not playing slouches in the Big Ten at all, especially defenses. And Iowa's never been known for their offense. They've been much more known for their trenches, their linemen, and their defense. And knowing that a guy like this was clearly the cornerstone of that offense in the Big Ten and is a standout with the ability to come into this Bills team and add to the weaponry unit like we were talking about earlier in a way that might be a little unconventional compared to what most people might want with the wide receiver. I have been hearing tight end get thrown out a lot over the last month, Dan, a lot.
Yeah.
And I know it'd be a different setup with the 2 tight end scheme, but potentially it's what they do. We have no idea. And and you and I were talking earlier off air. I don't give a damn who it is or what the position is. If there's a guy that they like, that they think can add value to this offense and add value to Josh Allen, I'm all over it. And if that's tight end, fine by me. And I think Sam Laporta here, based on what I've been told, based on what I've looked at, and based on the needs of the Bills, I'm in on it.
Got it. So we're going with Sam Laporta, number 59. Let's do it. It's funny you do that as well, because I feel like you said, right up until about a month ago, nobody was talking about tight end. And it did always kind of surprise me. I mean, number one, outside of Dawson Knox, and I know that we don't typically run that 2 tight end scheme, but I mean, how much trust do we really have in Quentin Morris? And then Zach Davidson, I think, who is the 3rd string or something, who are more than likely to be like a camp casualty at that point. I like it.
Yeah,
I do.
I think you look at Knox too. I love Dawson Knox. I mean, obviously, is he Travis Kelce, George Kittle? No, but he's been very productive for this team. The thing is, though, people will look at a pick like that with Laporta and they'll think it's an indictment on Dawson Knox. It's not. It's the opposite. It's the ability to add more to the offense in addition and alongside of Dawson Knox. So that's the way I look at it, and I wouldn't think that would affect how Dawson Knox plays into this offense at all.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely be intrigued to see if he does end up falling to us. He's dynamic.
Yeah.
And one thing I love about him, and one thing that has been absolutely making me punch air for the past couple of seasons, is his ability to gain yards after the catch, like after tackles, break tackles.
I mean, it's been everybody on this team's problem. I mean, that's just been the problem of the whole team. Yeah.
I know, man. Listen, I would say that that's like been my biggest frustration point, I would say, with our offense is our inability. I think that would be a great addition right to this team.
Great.
Awesome. All right, man. Last but not least, like I said, we only do 3 rounds over here on this channel.
Yeah.
Right? 3 rounds only.
Well, because you know how it goes. After the 3rd round, it's when you start hearing a lot of, who we get? Oh, great.
Oh, yeah. Who's he, man?
Yeah. All right. I love it. And then I hop to Twitter and I'm like, all right. And then, somebody will know something I don't. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. Let's do it. So defense here. We got to go defense in the 3rd round. I'm thinking after a run on 2 offensive players early on.
Absolutely.
It's corner or linebacker, in my opinion. I think we've taken too many cracks on the D-line, and I understand them doing it again, and I understand the need to probably do it again, but there's way more need at those 2 positions. So we're looking at cornerback and linebacker here, and see, the thing with a linebacker in the 3rd round is it's not going to be, and this is the problem I have, it's not going to be a replacement for Tremaine Edmonds. That's the current hole we have, where you're not going to get a guy like that unless you allocate your 1st round pick for it. So I don't know, as far as, I mean, depth, yes, but as far as getting out on the field and making an impact, I don't know if that's happening in the 3rd round here. Corner's a bit different because we've seen how rotational this corner position has been for the Bills opposite Trey White. We've seen that. In addition to that, Trey White, I don't know if we're going to get back to all-pro Trey White. That's a concern of mine. I understand. I understand last year. I am willing to give a pause on any thoughts on him getting back to that status, coming back last year, maybe a little earlier than he wanted to. But with that said, regardless of what you thought he did last year, you're coming off of probably the worst injury you can have at a position like that. And that is a definite factor. It is very tough to get back to the level he was at with that injury. And then you look at the other side of the ball at cornerback too, and it's just not where the Bills want it to be, really where anybody would want it to be. So I could see them going there again. And that's where I think the value is here. I just don't think that there's enough value at linebacker. So I think we take the best cornerback on the board and that's Hodges Tomlinson out of TCU. I think that would be the play here, best available at the position. I would lean linebacker if there was somebody better available as far as value, but there isn't. So go to the next best option on defense, and that would be Hodges Tomlinson out of TCU there.
That is the guy. And I mean, honestly, that take that you just gave, I mean, I felt like I knew it subconsciously, right? That Trey White may never come back to all pro after such a significant injury a couple of years ago.
And you really hope he does. But the thing is, Dan, you know, it's just, it's so tough at that position where your speed and your movement is everything.
It is.
You can't just assume you get back to where that was off of an ACL tear.
Yeah. And so especially on the cornerback situation, I mean, definitely sad news, but I mean, I could certainly see the reasoning behind it. I mean, here it is, Z-bot. I mean, there it is. That
C plus, and I figured, let me just preface this, by the way, at that 27. And I'm leaning, and I didn't want to do this because it gets way too complicated. And maybe not complicated for literally anybody else, but too complicated for me. At 27, I think in the situation that I was put in at 27, Dan, and I'm starting to become more and more, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm starting to think this is becoming more and more likely. I think if we're in the situation, if the Bills are in the situation that I was just currently in this draft at 27, they're trading back. That's what I think's happening. Because as you can see here, the value for DeJuan Jones at 27 was not there. And I think a guy like him is available a handful of picks back, potentially more, and you're able to add more capital to take more shots at getting one or two guys at a position that you need to hit on. I think at 27, if Bijan Robinson's gone and they're considering him, if all the top wide receivers are gone and they're considering him, and a top offensive lineman that they don't have on their, or that they have on their board is gone, I don't see them settling for a guy that they think has the same value that they can get in the second round and move back. So I think in my current position, I would see them trading back.
Yep.
But what I'm most interested about going into this draft, Dan, is really, it's two things. One, and I think this is different than last year this way, I don't think we have a clue what side of the ball they're even going to go on. Last year, it really just felt defense. Cornerback, the closer we got, it just felt like that was inevitable. This year, I don't have a clue. The other way I look at it too, and I think this is more so than last year as well, I think there's an equal amount of chance for the Bills to either trade up, stay put, or trade back. So those are the two things I'm dying to see, because it really is going to tell you what the Bills value, not only positional wise, but of course the player at each position. I think once we get to around pick 13 or 14, we're really going to start to wonder, you know, based on who's gone and who's still available, what Bean's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, really just sitting over at 27, and I'm not going to lie to you, I've been doing a lot of these for the past couple of weeks, and every single mock draft that I have done on PFF where I stayed at 27 and I drafted based off of needs, there has never been a draft grade better than C+. And it just goes to show you like how top loaded this draft class is. After you get past 20, like everybody else should technically be taken in the second. Past the 23rd, 24th pick, I guarantee you that all fan bases from all of the different teams on Twitter are going to be complaining that that was a reach. But it's just, it's how it is. It's
the other unfortunate, and the other unfortunate thing too is if you take a look at the teams that are about 7-ish picks before the Bills and up to the Bills, they almost all need very similar things to the Bills. So that's the other tough thing, where it could look like it's going one way, and then there could be a run on guys that you still have your eye on going right up into the Bills. And that's the other thing too. The problem I have with the idea of trading up is who is going to trade up with them. A lot of these teams need similar assets to the Bills. So who's going to be willing to give up their slot at taking one of those so the Bills can do it? And what would that take? So that's what when we were talking earlier about, like, you know, getting into it and stuff, the players is one thing just because there's so many and it's tough to. What I really get into is how it's carried out. Because I think not only on Thursday, Dan, are we going to see obviously trades and stuff, but we're going to see players start getting shopped around too. There's a lot of players left out there that are currently looking for new homes, including DeAndre Hopkins, a rumor that was dead in the water after being on fire. Now, all of a sudden, that's back blazing up again. So that's the stuff I look forward to.
What are your thoughts on that, by the way? I know we're getting off topic, but would you be excruciatingly upset if, say, for example, we shipped off a second round? Because Arizona just came out and said that they want a second round for D-Hop. So would you be upset if that happened?
Let me ask you this, and this is coming from somebody that I look at the Bills currently in two different ways. I look at them currently at the current juncture that they are within right now, which I still think is Super Bowl caliber. I also think that window is rapidly closing. So I am also looking at this Bills team towards the future. And when you look at the future of this weaponry unit for the Bills, it is not pretty. It just isn't. So here's where I stand on DeAndre Hopkins. Looking at the former, the window we're in now, all in. And I think that is probably worth a shot. Whether that's a second or a third, a second might be a bit too high. The more I'm hearing, the more I'm thinking there's not a team out there that's going to be willing to do it. And the Cardinals are really looking to ship him off. Now, it depends on how much of the capital that they eat on his contract. If they eat a good amount of it, maybe it is worth a second. But looking at the window now, Dan, oh yeah, I'm all in on it. You're looking towards the future. That's not going to be this saving grace. But guess what, Dan? The future isn't promised to anybody. Get DeAndre Hopkins in Buffalo next week. I'm all about it. And I know you said it might be a little bit off topic. I don't know if it is, man. This is heating up. And I think, and I know everybody's always saying, you can't give up this for that.
Yes, you can. Where we are right now, like you said, I honestly think we have this year. Maybe that's a bit dramatic, but I really think that if we do not take care of business this year and win a Super Bowl, I'm not going to say it's going to be impossible because we have Josh Allen as our quarterback, but it's going to be a lot fucking harder.
It's getting tougher by the year. Last year was the year. The Chiefs were somewhat down compared to what we thought they were. Yep. Just the Bengals now are just as good. I mean, that's the other thing that people don't want to admit that. The Bengals are just as good. They have our number now. I mean, that's the truth. But here's how last thing I'll say about the D-Hop thing, Dan. Right now, okay, you can take a second round pick. That guy could wind up being the next Jerry Rice, right? He could also wind up being he could wind up being the next Jamarcus Russell. You have no idea. What I know right now is a second round pick for D-Hop, lining him alongside of Stephon Diggs, lining him up alongside Gabe Davis, who when he is a wide receiver 3/3, not solidified 2, he is a problem. That, to me, get rid of it, do it. Because like you said, this probably seems like the year. And we know what the reasoning behind Von Miller was. This exact same reasoning. This right here. Do it on the offensive side of the ball, too, if the opportunity arises. I will leave night one. If we take, I don't give a shit if they wind up taking a long snapper at round one, just for the hell of it. If we get out of there with D-Hop, man,
I'll buy it.
Dude, I am so stoked. I'm so ready. That's where I'm at.
I think that it's certainly a polarizing conversation, but I'm right on board with you. Z-bot, man, I really appreciate you coming on.
Pleasure's all mine, brother. It's always fun.
Yeah, man, most definitely. Let's go Bills.
Go Bills.